Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy Jonathan Macri with you for another edition of the Knicks Film School Podcast. My pillow fell down. I'm here with Andrew Claudio. Hello, Andrew. How are you?
Hello, John. Hello, Macri family that may appear on screen. Happy to be here today to continue the countdown. Definitely didn't have to do a ton of research for this one.
So we're going to get into the subject of today's podcast in a bit. Andrew, can I spring, which I know you love when I do this, can I spring some on the moment schematic changes to this episode on you? I got an email we got an email to the Knicks Film School Gmail account. By the way, if anybody ever has anything they want to reach out to us, knicksfilmschool@gmail.com. I should start doing a better job of reminding folks of how they could reach us, as well as all of our social handles, which please I certainly know off the top of my head.
Social first before emailing us personally. Just we'll see it more often if it's on social.
People are smart enough to know the difference between things that they should email about versus things that they. I mean, what do you take people for?
You enjoy that, John.
What are our social handles? You can find us at what?
At Nick Film SKOOL on all socials that John totally monitors and checks, including his Instagram at JC Macri NBA.
I'll have you know that I went on my Instagram last week.
Proud of you.
Thank you. So anyway, George Gin or Gin, I can't tell if I'm pronouncing this correctly, sent an email with the subject line, Knicks coaching staff. No rush, but at some point, are you able to do a pod on the Knicks coaching staff additions? Feels like every day they are adding someone new. LOL. I wanted to just take literally a minute. Here's the thing, George. I can't sit here and tell you the philosophies of all of the different folks that the Knicks have hired / retained, because I don't know. And that's because the vast majority of these people have never been head coaches before and don't have a whole lot of stuff that they've said on the record about their coaching philosophies, with a few exceptions. Check out the Knicks Film School newsletter for that. But I can at least, because I think a lot of people may be in the dark about this because people have summer plans, at least run through who is on the coaching staff at this point. So I thought it might be a worthwhile exercise to just literally go down the line and say, these are the Knicks coaches now?
Go for it.
Okay. So head coach. This is a quiz. Do you know who the head coach of the Knicks is?
Let's see. It's not Tibbs.
You're terrible.
It's the guy that used to coach Denver. It's not a CAA client, because I think
you're getting close.
Okay. It's not the guy from Memphis. Mike Brown, the guy that used to coach the Cavs, right?
Excellent job. By the way, Mike Brown, I was reading Yaron's new book about the LeBron Lakers years. Mike Brown doesn't come off the best, I will just say, in that book, which is yet to be released. We're going to be talking to Yaron about that soon enough. Anyway, Mike Brown is the head coach of the Knicks. Under Mike Brown, we have as the offensive coordinator, most recently hired Chris Gent, also the associate head coach. And then the de facto defensive coordinator, Brendan O'Connor. He spent the last decade plus with the Los Angeles Clippers. So those are kind of the number 2A and 2B, I guess you would say. The most recent hire we got, it was announced just, I think, within the last couple of days. TJ Saint, he was the Pelicans G League coach. He's apparently going to be focused on more of the offensive side of the ball. And he holds the distinction of being someone that was neither on Tibbs' staff or Mike Brown's former staff. That's not an offensive or defensive coordinator. So shout out to TJ Saint. And then holdovers from Tibbs, Rick Brunson, Maurice Cheeks, Jordan Brink, Mark Bryant, and Darren Ehrman. So 5 total holdovers. And then Charles Allen and Ricardo, I think I'm pronouncing this correct, Foy. Those are the assistants brought over from Sacramento. Interesting note on Foy, and thanks to KFS reader Ganesh for pointing this out. He was on the player development staff at Phoenix, or in Phoenix, when Mikal Bridges was there. So, Mikal Bridges connection there as well. So that's your That's your Knicks coaching staff, at least as of right now. Anything else we need to say on that, or can we move on to the episode?
I'd prefer to move on to the episode. I know people are obsessed with everything Knicks, and I'm glad we went over who is the new Knicks coaching staff. We will not have anything to conclude about any of these people until they've actually played some basketball games and can see the impact that this coaching staff together has actually had on this roster that already is a championship contender. So I was intrigued more so about like down the coaching staff hires when they weren't a contender, because who knew what they were at that point. But this to me is up there with who's going to be the 14th man. So glad we went through that for those that wanted to hear it.
We should say, speaking of the 14th man, shout out to, well, not 14th man. Speaking to the empty roster spot, Ian Begley, I know, went on the putback and kind of intimated that he still likes Shamet for that, although he's apparently hinting maybe a trade would be in the works where they could get another veteran on the roster. We'll see what happens where that's concerned. Okay. On to today's subject. Andrew's so happy with me right now. Let's just say who it is, shall we? And then we'll get into why today's episode is maybe going to be a little bit different from some of the other ones. Today we're talking about Raymond Felton. He clocks in at number 21 on the list. I'll just give you the quick beats for his resume. He attended UNC. He was drafted 5th overall by the Charlotte Bobcats, who are a franchise that used to exist. Signed with the Knicks in July of 2010. He was traded for Karl-Anthony before that deadline, of course, and then had a second stint with the Knicks, not unlike the last guy on our list, Derrick Rose, when he was traded to the Knicks with Kurt Thomas in July of 2012 for some players who you don't need to worry about.
But can you? We're doing trivia again, John. Can you name any of the 4 players that were traded for Raymond Felton in July of 2012?
I mean, I know that they are players who were on the 2011-2012 team. I could probably do process of elimination. Wasn't Jeremy Lin? Was it Carmelo Anthony? Was it Amari Stoudemire? Wasn't Danilo Gallinari or Wilson Chandler, because they got traded with Felton the first time. I don't know. I could make up some answers, but why don't you tell me?
There's only one name that you'll know, and it's Jared Jeffries.
Oh,
yes. Jared Jeffries was in said trade.
That makes sense.
Now,
that makes sense.
The other 3 names, Dan Gadzurik, and the exclusive rights to Kostas Papanikolaou, Nikolou, excuse me, and Georgios, Printezis, and that second round pick that I still don't know who it became.
I thought at first you were saying Yorgos, and I was like, we traded the guy that directed Emma Stone and all these weird movies. Wow.
Yeah, they got Yorgos Lanthimos.
That's a good trade.
Yes,
that's a good trade for Denver, to be clear.
Indeed.
Anyway. So some stats: 13th in total playoff points in the last 25 seasons, and then 5th in total playoff assists in the past 25 seasons. This is now the section of the pod where we kind of wax poetic a little bit about the player in question and talk about, why he makes us feel all the warm and fuzzies on the inside. I don't know if we're going to do a ton of that on this episode. And if I could just peel back the curtain for a minute, if Andrew doesn't mind. Andrew texted me, I don't know, several days ago, and he's like, I got to be honest with you, John. I'm not sure how much I have to say about Raymond Felton. And I was like, no, it's cool. I can talk about Raymond Felton. I mean, I like Raymond. He's obviously checked in. He checks in at 21 on the list. I had him in my top 25. I think you had him in your top 25.
I did.
So there's no question he is a notable Knick. He was involved in a lot of memorable games. And yet, when we're sitting here, okay, Raymond Felton. What's the first thing that put aside most memorable moments in Knick, but what pops into your head? Because I have something that pops into my head, but I'm going to save it. I'm going to ask you first what pops into your head.
The first thing that pops into my head, which is ironic that he ends up on our list, and I thought about this in doing prep for the show, is that he's the guy they got to replace Jeremy Lin after the negotiations broke down. And he ends up being the guy that replaces Jeremy Lin on our list as well, after certain votes are broken down. To just circle back to where he fell on people's lists, and to go even more so behind the curtain. So Raymond Felton, nobody outside of Mark had him outside of the top 25, and Mark had him 26th.
Yeah, so
but no one had him higher than 19. So it's anywhere from 19 to 26. It's like you have a very clear ceiling, a very clear floor that you're basically in the top 25, but it's anywhere from 19 to 25. And to just continue with your point about how I didn't know how I was going to be able to wax poetic about him. I went and asked a couple of people, do you want to be on the Raymond Felton pod? And it was like, I don't have a Raymond Felton memory. And I want to go behind the scenes again with Sean, because I asked him, he had him ranked 19th. He had him ranked 18th. And I asked him, like, do you want to be on? He's like, I don't have much of a memory, but I remember him being a steady hand, which I think is the best way to describe the Raymond Felton experience. Just a point guard, a steady hand, a thing we hadn't had in a long time in a Knick uniform.
I was going to go with the phrase with two words that popped into my head. When like, what pops into your head when you think of Raymond Felton? Two things, I guess, sort of related. One thing, or is two things: meat and potatoes. He was a meat and potatoes point guard for a franchise that had been starving. And I want to get more into that in a second. But the second thing, I'm going to give a shout out to my buddy Jonathan Judge Rousseau, who said to me at some point during Raymond Felton's, I think it was his first stint in New York. He's like, you know what I love about Raymond Felton? I'm like, what? He's like, every time he makes a three or a big shot, he has a look on his face that looks like he just smelt the most hellacious fart in the history of mankind. And then every time after that, I saw that face and I thought of my buddy Jonathan. And I still think of that face when I think of Raymond Felton, because like, it's weird. He didn't have like a whole lot of flair to his game. I can't think of if I'm being honest with you, I can't think of a single like massive shot that Raymond Felton hit. It's like that won a game or swung a series or something. But he was also like, he was a unique player. Like you looked at him and he was like this burly guy and like kind of, not like, maybe the quickest of fleetest of foot or whatever, but he was effective. And he obviously was drafted 5th overall. So like the pedigree was there. And I distinctly remember, like, well, again, one of my standout memories of him is like when the Knicks got him that summer. I'm like, all right, we'd missed out on LeBron James, no Wade, no Bosh. I was like, all right, Raymond Felton. I forget what I could look it up. Obviously, the contract that they got him for, but I remember I'm like, that's a good signing for that amount of money. Like he can be a competent starting point guard for this team, and not once but twice, that's exactly what he was, and it speaks volumes. The fact that he came in here and essentially for a season and a half, I know he was on the team for the 13-14 season, and he was fine during the 13-14 season, but he was a competent starting point guard for like a good team for like a year and a half, a little bit more than a year and a half, because the Melo trade was like 2/3 of the way through the year. That's enough for all of our faculty, with the exception of one, to be like, yep, Raymond Felton's got to be in the top 25. And yet, because no one had him in the top 18, I think that, says a lot too.
Dude, just unnecessary correction, but no one had him in the top 17. There were anywhere from a couple of people had him at exactly 18, but it was 18 to 26 is the clear range for Raymond Felton. Yeah. And I think it's different than Derrick Rose, because also we were saying with Derrick Rose, I forget what the exact numbers were, but no one had Derrick Rose like too high. That's more like we love Derrick Rose. We have great memories of Derrick Rose, but we can't justify putting Derrick Rose in the upper echelon.
With Felton, it's almost the opposite. It's like we can't justify not putting him in this range, but he again, the memories, the feelings are just not really quite there.
So I have the contract number that he was signed to.
Was it $5 million a year?
15.8 million over 2 seasons. So
so he was almost $8 million a year.
Almost $8 million a year. What's that adjusted for inflation right now? Like 2 for 30?
Oh my God, you're gonna ask me what the cap was in the 2012-13 season?
I'm asking you to guesstimate.
Wait, no, sorry, not 2012-13 season. The 2010-11. 10-11.
This
season.
Is the infamous 2010 off season.
Was the cap $56 million?
Maybe something like that. Hadn't spiked to anything. One other note about Raymond Felton during the 2010-11. We are currently talking about another Knicks captain. He was selected co-captain along with Amari Stoudemire in the 2010. So Captain Raymond Felton. We need to give him the same respect that we give Jalen Brunson when we eventually talk about him.
$58 million. So what, 15% of the cap? So, I mean, like, it's a starting point guard in the NBA, and a guy who, like, that year, I distinctly remember, like, he wasn't in the All-Star conversation. Let me just be very clear, but like, there was like minor burbling, like, hey, look at his numbers, like racking up points, racking up assists. Like, should he be on the fringes of that conversation? Was more like what was talked about. Quick break to tell you about America's first ever USDA organic THC gummy. You know the words. Shout out to Cornbread. Yes, Cornbread, the source of your healthy happy hour. It's a natural and healthier way to experience a carefree moment. Cornbread's THC gummies offer a balanced sense of happiness and relaxation. Well, how do they achieve that balance? My favorite thing about Cornbread is it's just the right amount for me as someone who is not a regular user of these sorts of products, but still wants to get that relaxation without feeling anxious or paranoid like some other cannabis edibles, which is why Cornbread's 1-to-1 THC to CBD ratio is perfect for me. They have 10 milligrams of THC per gummy, which is just the right dose, and it gives me everything I need without any of the stuff that I don't want. If you are looking for a healthier way to enjoy a carefree moment, you have to give Cornbread Hemp a try. They have created the first ever USDA organic THC gummy that is 100% legal. As a special offer to Knicks Film School listeners, you can get 30% off your first order. Just visit cornbreadhemp.com/KFS and use promo code KFS at checkout. Again, that's cornbreadhemp.com/KFS and use code KFS for 30% off your first order. Cheers to a healthier happy hour. What we're going to do, because again, we don't have a ton of, really standout thoughts about Felton, is have a very brief version of the discussion that I think a lot of people had for the better part of, a long time before Jalen Brunson arrived, which is that where does Felton rank on the top Knick point guards since, do we want to do since the 90s?
Yeah, sure. Because it's what is it since Charlie Ward?
Well, that's the thing. Is like,
yeah.
So first of all, Charlie Ward is technically a part of this consideration because he did play for several seasons after the 90s. And it's funny because, like, again, another guy who, if we were doing our Knick rankings for the past 35 seasons or even 30 seasons, like, I'm telling you right now, Charlie Ward would be in my top 25 or top 30, whatever it would be, even though, again, I would not be able to sit here and wax poetic about Charlie Ward because he was, like, just barely good enough, to be, a competent, sometimes starting point guard. Felton, better than Charlie Ward, to be clear, not here for as long and obviously didn't have quite the same postseason runs as Charlie. So if we're starting with the 2000-2001 season, which is when this list, I'm going to just throw out, I feel like we have to consider, well, let's keep count. Jeremy Lin is 1. Nate Robinson, Basketball Reference, lists him as a point guard for every game that he played with the Knicks, is 2. I'm not in order. I'm just saying these are the who we have to consider. Derrick Rose, 3. Felton, 4. Quickly, 5. And then Stephon Marbury, 6. Now, if you're going by the order of what the Knicks Film School faculty ranked, then again, spoiler alert, two of those guys have not yet appeared on these podcasts, so you could take your guess as to who they are. The reason why I think it's an interesting conversation, or a more interesting conversation, is two reasons. Number one, I think there's was this person really a point guard? Like Nate Robinson, I know he was technically a point guard. I never thought of him as a point guard. Did you?
Oh, we talked about this. He was the height of a point guard, but he was a scorer off the bench. So there was
Nate Robinson.
There was less distributing or running an offense that he ended up learning how to do.
And as far as quickly goes, yes, there was some start quickly before Jalen Brunson got here. But then after Jalen Brunson got here for a season and a half, there was a large contingent of Knicks fans who were like, start him at the 2, and so I don't really know what to do with that. And then as far as Marbury goes, that's the other part of the conversation, which is I personally don't think there's any dispute that of the players that I just named, Stephon Marbury is the best player of that group, putting aside Derrick Rose, obviously, when he was an MVP. I'm talking about with the Knicks. Stephon Marbury was the best player of that group. Although Rose, maybe give him I digress. The point is, if we're ranking point guards, the best point guards, I think the winning part has to factor in maybe a little bit more than if we were just ranking the best players, or in this list, as we're doing, the top 25 Knicks. So with all that, where would Felton rank for you?
This is all behind Brunson, right? So Brunson's 1, or are we not putting Brunson on the list at all?
Brunson is...
It's in a tier. It's a pyramid.
He's in
top of the
outer
pyramid.
space.
Yes. Okay.
And we're now talking about the height of blades of grass. So There you go.
I have Raymond Felton ranked 3rd.
So there's 1 between him and Brunson, or 2 between?
No. Brunson's not on the list at all.
Brunson's not on the list. Okay.
4th with Brunson, but he's ranked 3rd for me.
Is it okay to ask who you have ahead of him?
2 Knicks that will appear on our list in the future.
Okay. So for you, look, maybe there's some people listening to this who didn't think we were going to have Stephon Marbury, but spoiler alert, Stephon Marbury is coming up.
There's a comment that on the last video that asked, I wonder if Marbury will make the list. Stephon Marbury will absolutely make the list.
And look, let me rephrase that. Or go back on what I just kind of intimated. That's not a crazy take. Because if you're someone who's like, hey, you know what I like as a Knicks fan? I like winning. I like winning basketball games. And if you just wanted to eliminate, it would be tough to eliminate everybody who wasn't on a winning team. But then again, Stephon Marbury wasn't a winning team. He was on a team that went to the playoffs. But again, I digress. I think that's fair. The
other one is?
Well, the other guy who hasn't appeared on our list yet.
Which is who?
Oh, you want me to say it? It's Quickly.
Yeah, Emmanuel Quickly. So I have Quickly and Marbury ahead of Raymond Felton, and that's it. And then after him, I would in order of what we've done already, Derrick Rose, Nate Robinson, go down the list. I mean, Charlie Ward is technically, but it's part of the more dire years in Knicks history. But if you wanted to, you could put Deuce McBride.
I was about to.
Yeah,
beat me to it. I was literally about to say, should we be considering Deuce? Okay. Man. So I think he has to be above Lynn. All due respect, just 17 days. Look. Mm-hmm. And I think he has to be above Rose because, again, as we said on the last episode, 35 games as argument for the most important player on the team versus, it's not that I'm ignoring the 2013-14 season. I'm not even saying Raymond Felton was bad or ineffective for the 2013-14 season, but in terms of contributing to #meaningful winning Knicks basketball, it's a year and a half versus 35 games. And I don't think the difference in production or effectiveness was that great where we slot Rose in ahead of Felton. So I'm with you there. He goes above Nate for me. I think he has to go behind Quickly because Quickly, much to the chagrin of some, was a point guard for the vast majority of the time he was here. Yes, he played with Brunson some. And like when he played with Brunson, he was off the ball. Even there were times where he didn't play with Brunson where he was kind of off the ball. Shout out Alec Burks. But like Toronto paid him $175 million to go be their point guard. Should that matter? I don't know. So I think he has to go behind Quickly. And then, man, can we do a quick exercise?
Sure.
Well, what happens if, again, the timing, obviously, Marbury was already in China. What happens if Marbury, like the Knicks version of Marbury, when Marbury was a Knick, was on, there you go, was with Stoudemire on that 2010-11 team? Or for that matter, on the 2012-13 team with Carmelo and company.
Well, so that's why the Felton conversation is so fascinating, because if you look at his Knicks career, he was averaging like 18 and 11 or 18 and 9 with the Knicks in 2010. Like that.
Was it that high? Is that, there's no way.
Not 11, not 11. So I have a lot of numbers here to go over eventually, but
yeah, I'm pulling them up right now.
He was averaging really good numbers that first
17 and 9.
Right. So
that's what I mean. Fringes of the All-Star conversation. Sorry.
Okay. Was never actually in said All-Star conversation.
It was not in it, but like 17 and 9.
So Josh Hart was in the fringes of the All-Star conversation this year. Okay.
To that level.
Right.
Felton was in.
So never actually in it, but someone said a thing in the ever-evolving media landscape that has only evolved even more so since 2010.
That's fair.
All I'm trying to say, and it's where I want to go to with my thoughts about Raymond Felton and really digging through his Knicks career, like D'Antoni had a very large effect on him as the point guard. This is a guy that used to have Steve Nash as his point guard, didn't have shit for his first 2 years with the Knicks, thought he might be getting LeBron James, and then here comes Raymond Felton and Amari Stoudemire. And he really developed a two-man game with Amari, and then you have these other younger players with Landry Fields and Neil Gallinari and Wilson Chandler on the wings that developed a lot of chemistry over the course of that season. And I don't think it's a coincidence that you look at his you look at his, let me make sure I get the math right. It was the first 37 games with the Knicks that first season. He's averaging 18 and 9 and is shooting 44, 36, 87 splits, and they were 22 and 15 through those first 37 games. Yep. Over the next 17, the Knicks go 6 and 11. He's now averaging 15 and 10 on 38, 26, 88 splits. So when he started to play a little worse, when he went through his first real slump over the next 17 games, leading up to the Knicks deciding, we're going to trade for Carmelo Anthony, like, who knows what I'm going to play the exercise that I hate playing out because I'm pro Melo, but who knows what could have been if he got a full season to play through said slump and they were just fine being a 7 seed and, you know, maybe letting Melo go to at the time New Jersey, but eventually Brooklyn, and, you know, missing out on another key name. I'm saying like his best stretch individual stats wise was with Mike D'Antoni playing with Amari in that really well developed pick and roll.
Yeah.
And I will speak on behalf of some Knicks fans. You might even be one of them. The most excited that people were about Raymond Felton was the beginning part of the 10-11 season when they were unexpectedly winning games, and that winning streak where he hit the game winner against Toronto, and he was like, they were really starting to build something, it seemed like.
Without question. That was the most, I mean, it's such a short period of time in Knicks history. maybe it's because we were so starved. Like it was however many years of shit that it was 2 years of, are we going to get him? Are we going to get him? Are we going to get him? Maybe we're going to get him. Let's see. Maybe we get him. Didn't get him. And it's like, oh, we got this. And it's pretty good. It's fun. Like we're, high flying the whole thing.
So my reaction wasn't, it's pretty good. It's pretty fun. It's not nothing. Like we didn't get LeBron. We didn't get Wade. We didn't get Bosh. That looks like an incredible euphoria in Miami. But we got this. It's not nothing. It's not, we're not bad anymore. And that
they were good.
Well, that's what good. And they were around a 7 seed. They were a 7 seed when they made the Melo trade. And that's like, to where the Knicks were for the majority of the century, we're fine being a 7 seed, but it's a mini we here, which is pretty cool. That, like, to try and give younger fans context, in 2010 to be 28-26 the day before the Melo trade, that was like, oh my gosh, we're over 554 games into the season. I can't believe this is my life.
I can't believe this is my life. Real quick on back to the Marbury thing. I'm happy you brought up D'Antoni because my question probably falls flat on its face because I just looked it up to be sure. Mike D'Antoni, it took Mike D'Antoni all of 34 games worth of Stephon Marbury to be like, I'm good here, thanks. And he shipped him to the Knicks. And then, Nash happened and the rest is history. So like Marbury and D'Antoni, probably not a match made in heaven. But again, from just like a purely theoretical exercise, like put a different coach there. Even, hey, fast forward to that. Let's do this. 2012-13. Mike Woodson's the coach. Marbury, Melo, Tyson Chandler, some good wings, shooting. I mean, do they beat the Pacers?
Well,
again, we're pretending it's peak Marbury, not China Marbury.
Right. And even then, like, what went wrong in the Pacers series is so much more than like Raymond Felton's performance. Like Derrick Rose forgot how to hit shots.
Derrick Rose.
Not J.R. Smith. J.R. Smith forgot how to hit shots.
Interesting Freudian slip there.
We'll get to him later. Like Jason Kidd just stopped being able to play basketball, and like Tyson Chandler was getting bodied. Like either his physical limitations, but he was just like getting dominated by Roy Hibbert, and then like Melo and all his inefficiencies. Yet he was like their only engine on offense. You could convince me that like another scorer, potentially at the point guard position, would have helped them in the Indiana series. If I'm having my choice, I would put the should have been sixth man of the year, Emmanuel Quickley, as my thing to add to the 2012-13 Knicks instead. But then what am I doing with basically instead of Raymond Felton? Because I like Pablo Prigioni on that team. Should get mentioned in this point guards before Brunson list.
Perfect transition. Last thing I want to say before we get to what else we have on Raymond Felton, which isn't much. You brought up Kidd and you brought up Prigioni. I think maybe that's the best compliment we can give to Raymond Felton, which is that they into 12-13 season, they literally were like, okay, you're going to be the point guard, but you're going to be playing alongside the greatest point guard of this generation. And then he ended up playing in front of, not that people didn't like Felton because of this or wanted him like benched or whatever, but in front of a guy who became such a fan favorite in Prigioni. And he, not only was he okay with it, he was still extraordinarily effective. And again, if we're moving on to best memory of the player as a Knick or lasting image as a Knick, for Felton, that image for me, other than the fart face, is inextricably linked to Jason Kidd because I know Felton was the listed point guard and Kidd was the listed shooting guard. Those two guys, like in my mind, they were the co-point guards, and I thought they made beautiful music together. I thought they were incredibly effective, and it was part of what made that team not only effective but a lot of fun to watch. So that'll be my lasting memory / image.
So I've got 4. as far as lasting memories are concerned. Again, I had to go do research and refresh my Raymond Felton memory. So 3 are from the 12-13 season in which they won 54 games and were a 2 seed. The reason I can't go with any of them is because I could go with the third one, but they more coincide with other players. So the things I do remember about 12-13, the Knicks got off to a 6-0 start to that season. Their 6th win of the year was in San Antonio. And in San Antonio, the Knicks were down 12 late in the fourth quarter. They go on a late fourth quarter run to win the game. Felton is the Knicks' leading scorer in that game with 25 points, 7 assists. He has 8 in this fourth quarter comeback, and then he has 2 assists down the stretch. 1 to J.R. Smith for 3, 1 to Jason Kidd for 3. That put the Knicks up 4 and completed the comeback. And coming off the 2011-12 offseason where it was like, how could you not sign Jeremy Lin? To get off to a 6-0 start. The other thing about this game, the Knicks came back and won. Karl-Anthony had 9 points, and it was like, oh, we can win even if Melo only has 9 points. Look at what else we've built on this roster. So that's the first memory that I had, was his role in that early season comeback.
Go on.
The second one is against the Miami Heat. Speaking of not having Karl-Anthony, he needed stitches on his finger, and the Knicks played a game without Carmelo against the Miami Heat. This is the Heatles, LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. And they won by 20 on the road, giving the Heat their first loss of the season to improve to 14-4. Raymond Felton had 27-7, including 6 3-pointers in this game. I went and rewatched the second half of this, or most of the second half of this on YouTube earlier. The problem with giving this as his memory is what I remember is like the Knicks hit 18 threes. This is a group effort. And obviously we know what happened to the Knicks that year, but it's a moment that you could have pointed to as like, oh, this is the full concept realized. Even without Melo, they can beat the Miami Heat on the road. And then there's a playoff game against the Boston Celtics, the game that J.R. Smith got suspended for in Game 4. So the Knicks lost Game 4 in overtime, 97-90. They were down by a bunch at halftime, though. And then Raymond Felton had a 16-point third quarter in sparking a Knicks comeback. And they were with this close, John, this close to sweeping the Boston Celtics.
I wonder if that would have changed the Pacers series outcome. Maybe
they have a week off. You know, you don't have J.R. Smith coming back and short circuiting for a week and a half. But Raymond Felton finishes with I actually have the numbers right here. Finishes with 27 points in this game, and the Knicks end up losing. But finishes with 27 points. Knicks end up losing this game in overtime. But it is a nice playoff memory for Raymond Felton. The lasting image for me, I think, is what people go to when they think of that 2010 first half of the season before the Melo trade. During the peak of the winning streak, I think this was their 5th straight win. This made them 14-9. He hit a step back game winner against the Toronto Raptors that hit the rim not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, but 5 times before going in. And the Knicks end up winning this game 103-100. I think when people go to like great Raymond Felton memories, it's during that time with the Knicks when the expectations were very low and they were exceeding them, and his notable game-winning shot against the Toronto Raptors. Andrea Bargnani, 41-7-6 in that game. So who knew that?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Unfortunately, James Dolan might have been watching and said, get him in a few years.
That was really well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, so there are some memories from Raymond Felton. No easy way to transition to this, which is biggest regret. Not an obvious one in terms of something that we wish could have gone differently or better, even if it was out of the player's control. I'll go here. I wish the Lakers had successfully or not convinced. I wish the Lakers had hired Phil Jackson to be their coach, so he couldn't have taken the Knicks president, whatever job, because one of Phil Jackson's first moves when he was hired was to trade away Raymond Felton along with Tyson Chandler, so two starters, for, brace yourself, Jose Calderon, Samuel Dalembert, Wayne Ellington, Shane Larkin, a second rounder that became Thanasis Antetokounmpo, and a second rounder that became Karl-Anthony early and not Nikola Jokic. Jackson was a disaster. I guess I just wonder if it wasn't Phil and Dolan had ended up hiring someone that had maybe a little bit more patience, would they have not run it back, but like, I don't know, would things have devolved as quickly and as disastrously as they did? So I'll go with that.
It's a good one. The entire Phil Jackson era, honestly, is
that could be the biggest regret for like.
I've heard spin zones that it wasn't that bad, and I just the turmoil and the chaos that existed. I say this again as the Carmelo Anthony guy. He never wanted Melo, and so it's like, so why'd you give him the contract, and more importantly, the no trade clause? Phil, if you had chosen a direction, I would have hated it, but I at least would have understood the direction. Having him and then like bad mouthing him to your buddy Charlie Rosen at a website that doesn't exist anymore. Anyway, I go a different direction with Raymond Felton, and it doesn't have much to do with him. So, what do you consider like the biggest difference between 2012-13 Knicks and the 13-14 Knicks that didn't make the playoffs? So one team won 54 games, was a 2 seed, and made the second round, was 2 wins away from the conference finals. The team the next year won 37 games and missed the playoffs completely.
I don't think it was talent, and I say that remembering very well their run in the spring when they were like the best. They had the best record in the NBA for like a month or something.
They won 9 straight. Because remember when the Knicks have won 9 straight with Tibbs? Like we go back to when they've won streaks that long, and we're like, oh, there's this weird one in 13-14. But I don't remember that at all.
They started playing well. They started 2-9, and I remember that start, and it was maybe not exactly 2. It was something like 2-9, and I just remember it felt like they were so snake bitten. I also vaguely recall Tyson Chandler was hurt at the beginning of that season. So I'll go with that as the answer, I guess.
So where I'm going with this is that Andrea Bargnani was on the team.
Oh, well. Okay.
And for the guys he replaced, first of all, they sent out a first round pick that eventually became Jakob Poeltl. So allow me to just be annoyed at the Knicks process during that stretch. They replaced the GM before the season, so there was already something left to be desired. But like Bargnani, lack of veterans, like Marcus Camby's not there anymore. Kurt Thomas isn't there anymore. Jason Kidd's not there. Sheed's not there. Like all the vets that they brought in to not really play outside of Jason Kidd, who eventually just on the court decided he wasn't able to play. They were lacking in some veteran leadership, and that team won 54 games, and they brought in Andrea Bargnani to take them to the next level. And like one of the main things from that 12-13 team was like sharpshooter Steve Novak was like important to that team. And I considered him from my top 30 on this list, top 35. And now you trade him along with the first for Bargnani. And I thought it completely messed up the chemistry, completely messed up anything they had working. And I think my biggest regret is what if they make a different trade using said asset? Because look, the Melo trade being what it is, yes, they traded a ton of assets for the superstar. That's what happens. You then have limited assets after that, and you need to use them very smartly. And to their credit, they used their assets very smartly for the next 2 years and developed a 54-win 2 seed. Yeah. They needed to continue being smart with said assets and not trade for Andrea Bargnani and create a 37-win team that misses the playoffs.
There is an argument this is an entire episode. There is an argument that the Bargnani trade was worse than any trade Isaiah Thomas ever made, because even Eddie Curry, and look, you're talking to probably Eddie Curry's. I was the number one Eddie Curry believer during those years. There was at least a moment where you looked at Eddie Curry on the Knicks and you're like, oh, there's something here. And then things went sideways in 18 different directions, and he had some off-court stuff, which he has since spoken about, by the way. But like, traded for a young player with a lot of promise, wildly overpaid for the player. But there was promise with Eddie Curry. Bargnani, it was reported like in the immediate aftermath or at the time, like the Raptors wanted to unload that contract. They were the ones who should have been giving the draft assets, and the Knicks paid a freaking future for. I mean, it was just astoundingly stupid. And so that's a good one. Good job by you.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's finish up here. What role would this player have on the current team? I mean, I feel like we've been saying this for like every episode so far, but backup point guard in place of Jordan Clarkson, right?
I was actually going to ask you, is this the first player that we have that doesn't have a role on the current team?
I think, again, peak Felton when he was with the Knicks is getting rotation minutes on this team. Has to.
Well, no, obviously you would find a way to play Raymond Felton. I'm saying with the Knicks, because they have their point guard, to the conversation we had earlier, like this wasn't a guy shooting 40% from three. Oh, I guess quickly he also didn't shoot 40% from three outside of one season. Like, I mean, this was a more of a true point guard. And if I guess you could make the argument, you play him up with Brunson off ball. It's similar to the Derrick Rose conversation we had, but this is better than Derrick Rose we hear, you know?
I don't know. Well, hold on. To me, we hear Derrick Rose is more likely to get minutes on the current team than the best version of Raymond Felton.
Because he's a clear backup, though. Like the role is very right. I don't think there's a backup point guard role for starting point guard Raymond Felton. Is more what I'm trying to. And this is another conversation we're going to have when we eventually talk about Marbury. You know,
I mean, Felton was 6'1". He was a stocky 6'1", but he was 6'1". Mm-hmm. So I don't know how much we could be like, oh, in the modern game where there's more switching, like he could have been like a Marcus Smart, Kyle Lowry type of defender. I don't think that was who Felton was. But like, I think he's getting 15, 20 minutes a game, maybe a little bit alongside Brunson, but he's the backup. I think he's the backup point guard.
I think you're hinting at, you just said the name. I think that they'd have to play differently, and who knows if Mike Brown will, and him being willing to play two small guards might actually lead to this. But the Kyle Lowry on Miami version, or even that last couple years with Toronto when he was playing next to Fred VanVleet more often, you could make that the him next to Brunson conversation, or Felton next to Brunson conversation.
I'm not starting him on this team.
No. But Lowry didn't start for the Heat. Like he came off the bench for the Heat, and in a lot of games, like turned games because he was a veteran. He was savvy. Weed had a front row seat to it, but he was playing off of. I'm forgetting his name. He's now on the Gabe Vincent, right? And like even like much older, so not as good as Raymond Felton, but even the team, the version he had on the Sixers 2 years ago, playing next to Maxi, like we have a clear point guard, we have a clear point guard that can score, and at times one will run the offense over the other, and the other will use his gravity. You could use Brunson's gravity to make more lanes for peak Raymond Felton to operate. So
this is a good transition to the last part, which is like lasting legacy with Knicks fans. And I kind of hinted at this at the beginning. The reason Raymond Felton would have to get minutes on this Knicks team, for as much as there is not an obvious role for him, is because he's too good not to. He was just, again, I hate to, this is like a backhanded compliment, but he was so competent, and he was so just like steadying, like, you know, much like, you know, in Deuce, I think I said this about Deuce during the Deuce episode. very rarely, if ever, was it Raymond Felton on the floor and you were like, man, he's killing us. We got to get him out of there. So I think, look, they needed a steady hand. He was that steady hand. Some things maybe could have gone differently, could have gone better. But Raymond Felton, starting point guard on still the Knicks team with the most wins this century.
Yeah, 100%. It's the talking point I was going to go to, that despite the highs and the playoff games that we've gotten to enjoy the last couple of years, the Knicks still have not had a 54-win team in the Brunson era. I optimistically think they will this year, but
you're always, the last several years I've
been at hashtag 58 wins, but I mean, look, the NBA apparently seems to think so too.
What are they, 50?
That's Vegas. I haven't talked.
The schedule. The
NBA is basically like, all right, for every important holiday we have, we're going to have the Thunder and the Lakers and the Nuggets, and we're going to put this West team against this West team, Knicks, Cavs, and then we're going to go this West team against this West team, and this older veteran West team with this great West team, and then Knicks, Cavs again. Like, they're very clearly thinking there's two good teams in the Eastern Conference at the moment.
You think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's look. Who knows? Maybe they finally surpass it. But as of now, that will continue to be a part of Felton's legacy, and it's a good legacy. And again, this is yet another player who we have done on this list, and I think this goes for, just looking at the list. Yeah, I think this goes for every one of our first 5 entrants, and it will certainly go for our next several entrants, next 3 at least, where it's really only good stuff associated with. People don't really have a whole lot of bad stuff to say. And then as we get into the middle teens, there are going to be some people that will pop up who there's up until the top 10 who there's going to be some mixed opinions about. I'll just leave it at that.
That should be fun. Yeah, look, the cool thing about the Knicks alumni that now find themselves at Knicks playoff games is, like, I think lasting legacy with Knicks fans is when I see Raymond Felton, it's like, oh, you were a solid point guard on that 54-win team, Raymond Felton. I'm glad you're back in the mix. And to your point, John, I got nothing. I don't have a negative Raymond Felton game, like there's no, I wish you had made more shots in that game against that team. It's just solid, positive contributions to a franchise that was looking for a point guard a lot, and very much so throughout the entire century. And that's and I'm glad he made our list and we got to celebrate him a bit.
Last thing, and this is not a negative comment on Felton at all, to be very clear. It is a commentary on how much the game has changed in the last 10 years. Do you know how many 3-point shots Raymond Felton attempted in New York's 6-game defeat at the hands of the Indiana Pacers in the 2013 playoffs?
Off the top of my head, no, I don't.
I'll give you a hint. It's an even number average per game.
Is it 2?
No, it is 1 per game. He attempted 6 threes. He made 3, but what a time to be alive when a starting point guard on a team that it was a very good offense.
And took a ton of threes. And that's the craziest part. And that's, again, what I go back to the D'Antoni part. Correct me if I'm wrong, if you have his career averages in front of you, but his career high in 3-pointers per game for a season was the 54 or whatever games that he played under D'Antoni. It was around 5 that year, right?
It was not around 5. It was exactly 5.0 3-point attempts per game. Only hit 33%, which again,
back then,
fringes of the fringes of the fringes of the All-Star conversation. But there were people who were like, "Hey, Ray Fellow, quite a season." Under 32.8% from deep. You know, it's a.
Now look at his Denver numbers, if I remember right.
His
volume went down, but the percentage went up.
2.9 attempts per game in 31.6 minutes, hit 46% from deep after he left New York. That's interesting. Okay, this was good. We had nothing to say about Raymond Felton. Here we are almost an hour later. Okay. Should we announce? We're going to announce it on social. So Thursday, tomorrow, hopefully, as you're listening to this, tune in to the Knicks Film School YouTube channel. I don't know what a U channel is. For a schedule release live stream at 3 p.m. I have a hankering suspicion that the schedule will be released at 3 p.m., even though that has not been officially announced yet. So we're going to react to it live, and that'll be something that we will do. And then tune back in on Friday for another the next Nick on the 25 for 25. Who, even though I just looked at it, I'm already forgetting who it is.
Yeah.
Here we go. It's gonna be a good episode.
That'll be a fun conversation. Yeah,
it will be a fun conversation. Okay, Andrew, thank you.
Thank you.
And everybody out there, thanks for checking out another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. Again, be sure to follow us on all of our socials at Knick Film School. That's SKOOL. And don't email us because apparently Andrew, he just doesn't like people. It's a shame.
I respond to DMs, so you can DM me on said social. My social's on the screen at Andrew J Claudio _.
There you go.
Yeah.
And mine is at JC Macri NBA. Okay. On that note, we'll see everybody later. Peace out.